everybody. Welcome to the Silver Lyming. My name is Anne Desjardins. I'm your host here for this wonderful show that I've put together in an effort to spread awareness and hope for people going through the struggle with Lyme and tick-borne illness. For those of you who have gone through it or have it, we know it all too well. We often say you don't get it till you get it, and you get it really loud and clear when you actually get it. If you're listening and you're not somebody who's been directly impacted by it, I appreciate your time and listening, and hopefully you will get something out of this regardless of whether you're personally healing from it yourself or if it's a family or loved one that you know that is going through this process right now. One thing I just want to touch on quickly, I've kind of now decided to incorporate. I used to do quick tick tips way back in the day on social media, and I try to weave in some sort of tip for people just to keep you again on your toes and a little bit more mindful about their wonderful creatures of ticks. And so here we are coming into the winter time, right? And so everybody always thinks, oh, it's cold out. The ticks are asleep. They're not out anymore. They're not active. I would like to say that's very inaccurate, that they are still quite active, and that you really want to just get in the habit of checking yourself, your children, your pets, anyone you come into contact with, and letting them know as well that it's very important to get in the habit of doing a daily tick check, because even if temperatures plummet, I was talking to one of the leading scientists in tick research, and she had shared with me she put 3 ticks into the deep freeze, like negative 120 degrees or something ridiculously cold like that. And she pulled them out a few days later and they started crawling around again. So while we thought that the cold would kill them off, it doesn't necessarily do that. So again, just be mindful. We're here in December. They're still quite active. And in Pennsylvania right now, it's a balmy 42 degrees outside. And we know, again, that's not quite cold enough to disrupt their habitat and their lifestyle. So they're still hungry little creatures looking for a fresh, warm blood meal. And don't let yourself be that opportunity for them. Just make sure that you're taking the time to take precautions when you go outside. And again, just really getting the habit of daily tick checks, because that will save you a lot in the end. If you're a lucky participant to find the tick on you, save it and send it in for testing. That's also another fact that I will weave in here at this moment in time, because I've come across quite a few people lately who find it and flush it down the toilet. And the testing for people is pretty deplorable, but the testing on ticks is pretty quick and painless and easy. So I would just encourage you, again, if you find one on you in that tick check, to send it in for testing to know if you need to take action against that, if it was an infected tick or not. But that's what I've got for you today. And my guest that I have today is someone that I've met now through social media, and another one of my guests, Kara Truong. I really appreciate you, Kara, for connecting us and putting me in touch with Dani. I'm really excited for her to be able to share her story. She's the author of The Brilliant Businesswoman, Your Guide to Entrepreneurial Success. And I'm just really kind of marveling at the timing of things, because I was just talking to her a little bit more about growing my business as an independent entrepreneur, and I guess that's kind of like two things in the same thing. It's always an entrepreneur as an independent, but at any rate, as an entrepreneur, and I'm really excited just for the timing of this and to hear again more about your story, Dani. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for putting forth the effort in the universe of what you do to help women be stronger business people, because it's very important. It's not just a man's job any longer. It's certainly something that both sexes can do, and the more guidance that we have at overcoming like the female register and terminology maybe that we've learned, I think probably maybe as older generations, sometimes we've been taught that, it's a man's world, but it's certainly not the case. And I'm just glad for resources like you to help women be inspired to not only put forth their energies in their own business, but to heal, because that's really why you're here, right? Talk a little bit more about your story with Lyme and tick-borne illness. So without further ado, if you don't mind, if you could share with us a little bit more about your journey and how you got involved with Lyme and tick-borne illness, please.
Absolutely. Anne, thank you so much for having me tonight. And I'm so grateful that Kara connected us, because what you do is just so, as all of us have been on this journey, like what you do is so powerful to give people hope and also just practical guidance to get through this. So my story's probably not, it has its own twists and turns and paths, but unfortunately, it seems it's like all too common that I'll start with you find the tick, you think you take it off in time, and then like you think you're okay because you followed all the guidelines and there's no bullseye and all that kind of thing. And then So basically, and then you have a nightmare on your hands trying to seek answers, and medical gaslighting is the term that I've come to label all of that. And so basically, I'll give you the kind of the rundown. So I remember the day it happened. I was boating, so I do a tick check every night, but I didn't expect to find anything because I was on the water. But what happens is, it's like there's a few little reeds you got to walk through to get to the boat. And those, oh my God, I can't stand ticks. They're so gross. It's just like, okay, they're smart. I'm like, all right, everyone's got to get to the boat. Let's hang out here. There's lots of traffic. Ugh, they're so gross. Um, so I get the tick, I take it off. I think I'm like, oh, good, I got it in time. I didn't send it off for testing. And then I can kind of like vaguely remember, like maybe a week or month afterwards, like, maybe going through like a flu-like thing. But of course, but like who doesn't at some point? And so it's not like I reached out to anybody. And then basically I look at myself then. I was a fit, cross-fitting, I have a certification in holistic nutrition. I was a martial artist, like just rocking it and feeling great. Um, I happened to enter a very stressful time of my life. It was wonderful. You had mentioned my business background, and one of the companies that I co-founded, a software company, was being acquired, and that was a very disruptive, exciting time, but also stressful. So in terms of being things and things cropping up, being easily blamed by things, I'm like, okay, stressful environment. So basically, it from that, it was like the slow downhill turn of health until you can't. One of my naturopaths would put it so well. She'd say, basically the body will whisper to you, then it will shout to you, and then it'll drop you to your knees. And it's not like I was ignoring myself. I'd go to my annual physical and be like, hi, like it hurts to open my hands. Like I'm having trouble walking. And like I wake up in the morning and I have to like shuffle out of bed, like almost like little shuffles because my feet hurt so much. So, they would do the normal test and they did a like, oh, rheumatoid arthritis. Like, I don't know, nothing's, can't find anything. I'd have mysterious pains that would come and go. And like I'd reach out and I'd say like, oh my God, I'm having this stabbing pain. But then I'd make the appointment in a couple days, it would go away. And so I'm starting to sound like a crazy person. And of course, all the neurological things with the zips and the zaps and burning sensations and losing my hair. And you start to sound, your doctors start to think you're a hypochondriac because it'll be there strong as you can't ignore it, but then it'll go away. And then something else will crop up. So what I did on my quest to try to figure out like why am I dying, I started peeling back like layers of the onion. The first thing I did, this is kind of actually the most, you talk about like Lyme brain and a fog. The first thing I did was I hired a stylist. I'm like, I'm down in the dumps. I've gained a bunch of weight. I don't, I'm not like the most power dresser. And they're like, maybe I just need to do something for myself and feel more confident in like an outfit I pick out because I don't know how to dress myself at this weight. Again, another sign that was just like, oh, you gained 40 pounds. Like you went from CrossFitting to gain, like, oh, okay, let's just, eat less. I'm like, huh? So that was the first thing. And wow, believe it or not, okay, I did have a really nice blazer from that. I wouldn't have picked out on my own, but you know what? It didn't cure me. Number two was I had a copper IUD. And I'm like, what can I take out of my body? Like, what can I start peeling back? Okay, like, you know what? Let's make an appointment and get this thing out of me. It's not supposed to be there, so let's get that out. And that ended up turning out that was like embedded and probably, again, not doing me any favors. So got that out. And then I'm like, what next? I have a beautiful son. I love him very much. After I had him, I thought the remedy of in terms of fixing my talking about fixing my can you say boobs on? I don't know. I got a breast implant. And I'm like, you know what? Get these out of here. I know better now. Get these out of here. And again, every layer of the onion I pulled back, I did get a little bit better. But it wasn't all the way there. And then like I was still feeling miserable, still couldn't walk. And I love these. Ian and I were talking about our dogs a little bit earlier, and I decided to get a dog. And I was being talked into it. but I'm like, I don't know if I'm well enough to take care of a dog, but I do miss having a dog. And I got the dog, even though I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be well enough. Like I'm almost like a half preparing to like, I would be lie awake at night, insomnia, and think like, okay, there's something dreadfully wrong with me. And I'm gonna be at the like okay, I'm gonna be at the doctor someday and they're gonna tell me what it is and I'm gonna be given like maybe like a month to like I'm like and I was like ready for that. You had to make peace with the fact that like I know I'm dying, but
Yeah.
no one can figure this out. So it's gonna be something like something out of some sort of horrible Lifetime movie. So, so back to so I got my dog and he scratched my ankle and it got infected and I got put on antibiotics for the little infection in my ankle and I felt so much better. Oh my God. It's like for like the first time in years, like I could open and close my hands and they worked and I had a break. I could breathe easier. I could think a little bit and I'm like, oh my gosh, like what is this? It's almost like the clouds parted for like 4 days after being on this antibiotic. And I wrote to my regular medical doctor and I said, oh my gosh, like I really feel amazing. What else could this be treating? And she's like, I don't know, it's probably a coincidence. And then I wrote to my naturopath in New Hampshire, Kristen Odell, who's an amazing, amazing woman. I think she saved, I can't count how many times she saved me. And she just wrote back in all capitals, tick-borne illness. And then that started the next journey.
Mm. You sound so much like me in so many ways, and I'm just sitting here like, oh God, like I still remember I was resigned to the fact that I was dying. I was waiting for myself to just fall over on the sidewalk. I had a hard time even walking my dog. That was a thought at one point was like, should I even have a dog? I don't think I can even manage to take care of a dog. Um, and so like again, you're just bringing so many thoughts back into my head about my own journey. So it's extra nice to meet you and hear your story. Although it's like terrible because I know exactly where you're at, kind of a thing. Um, but I'm glad that you at least had someone in your corner to turn to that could at least make sense out of it for you. And I remember when I started on antibiotics after I actually did get diagnosed, like I remember crying my face off because I felt like a human being again. And it had been so long since I was in the land of the living that it was like, whoa, like, oh my God, I'm alive again. Like I can think, I can talk, I can remember, my friend just sent me a picture actually yesterday of, I think it was like week 3, and I was out to dinner with them, and I had a little bit of a slight regress actually before I fully was like out of that. But I was like, oh my God, I remember that night so well because I was like alive again. So I completely get that. It's almost like Moses parting the seas, right? And you're just like, oh, here I am. So I'm sorry that the traditional doctor didn't know what that possibly could be. But again, very glad that your naturopath was able to tell you what that was. And then, so tell me what happened after that moment. And also, did you like, were you able then to connect the dots back to the tick at the boating place at that time, or it still didn't quite sink in for that timeline?
Yeah, one thing I do want to mention is like my MD was an awesome MD.
Yeah.
She was caring, she went over and above. She's she's a fantastic MDs. However, they just don't have the knowledge.
Right.
They don't have the knowledge, they don't have the right tests. And it's like even if they knew what the right tests were, due to the constraints that they're under, they wouldn't be able to, I don't think they'd be able to get them because it's all like private. It's like that's a whole other podcast, but in terms of like that whole thing. So, just because so in terms of they're doing the best they can with what they have. So that's why, finding that Lyme literate doctor. So so I got the tick-borne illness. I remember and it's all shouty capitals. That's all she wrote back is tick-borne illness. I love her so much. And I made an appointment with her And the first thing that she said as I walked through her door was, she just looked at me and she says, "You're not crazy." And and um and from there she referred me to another Lyme specialist, Dr. Berth Matheson in Bedford, New Hampshire, who's a fantastic, like, I owe these people my life. And he either between the two, I got the right tick testing, because since it was close and local, I did the tick testing through my regular MD, and that came back negative. Again, not dissimilar story. And I got the test through my naturopaths, and and it came back for Lyme, a couple different strains, a bunch of them, anaplasmosis, babesia, and Bartonella, and it all made sense, because I'd even seen like Bartonella, because when I was having weird like rib pain, like I even wrote to my doctor, I'm like, I'm having this, and she's like, oh, that's that cat scratch fever. It's like, oh no, that can't, that shouldn't be it, but I'll test you just in case, like doing the best we can with what she has. And because I had to wait for a while to get into the my Lyme doctor, Dr. Brett Matheson. I saw another local naturopath I had had a relationship with through my previous history navigating gluten. And he looked at me, he had me open my tongue. This is Dr. Jeffrey Satinick. I love him so much. He's since passed, but he had me open my tongue, and he goes like, now we're going to test your house for mold. I'm like, okay. So he sent me home with the swabs. And this is going to talk about layers of the onion. Sent me home with the swabs. And yeah, my house, like, we had storm damage and it was COVID. So we're having trouble finding contractors, but definitely didn't think, and it was an older home. So knew that we had repairs to do, but never in a million years did I think that my house had toxic levels of aspergillus mold in it.
Okay.
So, um, so we started working on getting that remediated and getting that out of the environment. And then other things like this was also I had a heart attack. My heart went tachycardic. I had never had heart problems before, and I remember that I'll weave this in just because maybe someone will resonate with this. But so called the ambulance. They got me to the hospital, and I'm still waiting for my Lyme doctor. And I didn't go on more antibiotics. I tried not to mess with anything until I had this appointment. But now I'm in an ambulance being rushed to the emergency room because my heart has gone out of control. And, of course, they tell me that it's anxiety. Even though like I am the most like calm person. I'm like, I get excited and happy, but like I'm on the level. I'm just fine. And and then I said like, well, I'm just got diagnosed with Lyme, and they're like, and the doctor there says like, that most people don't think chronic Lyme's a thing. I'm like, but how could it not be a thing? If you have Lyme and it's never been treated, how can it doesn't like go away on its own all the time? Like how can it defies the logic that chronic Lyme, especially with what we know about biofilms, that it wouldn't be a thing. Um, they had written in my chart that I had refused antibiotics, which is not the case. Because I said, when they said, I'm like, give them to me. Like, obviously, I'm in the heart hospital on a gurney. Like, give me the antibiotics. We'll do this
Exactly.
now. And yes, give it, but bring it on. And then we'll, like, then we'll see my doctor. And much like Kara's story, I had the three options. I had like antibiotics, like herbal remedies, and I had Lyme N, which was that kind of uh, treatment that isn't something that's like overly conventional yet. And again, Kara said it's up there, and you don't really know too much about it. But all I knew was my gut was already messed up from antibiotics, and I didn't want to put myself through that. And I love the idea, because it's something that you nebulize. I love the idea of like fogging these things where they can't hide. It's like, I get to do this, and it's gonna like gas into my blood, and like, I'm gonna find you. I'm going to war, and I'm gonna win. So that's how I ended up on that part of my treatment path.
Okay. And so I've been interviewing quite a few more people with this Lyme N protocol. I did not use it myself, and this is definitely not meant to be medical advice for people, but it's just to put out some options for people to understand about some different ways to heal themselves. And so what I understand is that that's like an herbal concoction that you nebulize for 60 days. Is that?
Yeah, and it wasn't a picnic, because I'm really grateful. That's actually how I got connected with Kara, is that people who are considering it, I put my name up in case, yeah, if someone wants to talk about, and again, just I'm very careful on the calls. I'm like, I'm happy to share my experience. I am not a doctor. I can't give you any advice, and I won't. I'll share my experience because it's not, everyone's different on, doing this, but it definitely wasn't a picnic. They talk about, Herc's reactions and all that kind of fun stuff. And the story I gave myself on the healing journey, it's not like taking a Tylenol and like, oh, I have a headache, taking a Tylenol now the headache's not so bad. I told myself, I'm like, my body is full of creatures that want to stay, and they are going to fight to stay. And it's almost like a rollback. One of the interesting things was, it's like I had definitely neurological problems in my hands. But I remember during my treatment, during that 60 days, I remember putting my hands under like water to wash my hands. And the weirdest sensation, I felt like it was like my hands were being stabbed by like little mini like ice darts
Huh.
and just all this weird things. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like something in my nerves is coming back. And it was a lot of that. And some, different experiences. And I checked in with the doctor a couple of times. I'm like, is this okay? And they're like, yep. And I'm like, all right, that's okay. I'm going to battle to get these things out of me. So, like, you guys can put up a fuss and my body can do, people that are wiser than me could speak more eloquently to this, but that is what the stories I made up in my head, in terms of like, I'm taking my body back out, get out.
Yes, I think that's
Body, do what you need to do.
I think that's a pretty common idea that a lot of us concoct is like we're at war. I mean, it's like one of the hardest battles we'll ever fight. You're definitely at war with whatever little creatures are living in there. I know mine lived here in the back of my head specifically. I had a lot of neurological problems, but I would talk to it. And a lot of my guests have said the same thing. Like they would talk to it and be like, I see you. I'm going to get you out of here. This is my body, not yours. Like it's time for you to go. You're getting served your eviction notice now, and I'm moving forward and I'm going to regain my health. And that's, I think, one of the big things I want people to take away from this is that, you really have to commit to the idea that you're going to heal. Like there's no alternative, there's no other choice. Through and through, your entire being must be committed to the fact that you are going to get better. You can't have doubts. I mean, sure, there'll be some days when you're like, damn, what am I doing? But for the most part, like just keep reminding yourself you're going to win, you're going to get better, you're going to heal. It's possible. That's why I put this podcast together, was to put a collective of voices saying we've healed, we've gotten better, so that there's proof, there's tangible proof, there's people they can talk to, there's people out here who have gotten better after being sick for a good amount of time. Like I'm not totally sure how long did it take you to get a diagnosis?
7 years.
That's 7 years for me too. Go figure. So it's not exactly like a fast catch sometimes, which then of course makes it go into the chronic longer state disease, right? Like the
Yeah.
spirochetes, it's a corkscrew shaped organism when we're talking about the Lyme itself. The longer it's left in the body, the better chance it has of burrowing further and further into our muscle tissue, our organ system, our brain. They've done supposedly studies on people that have been eradicated of it, and they still find it in their eyes and their cartilage when they're doing autopsies. Like it really works its way into the system, and the longer that we go with it, the harder it can be to expel it. But it is completely possible. It is doable. And so for those of you listening, again, this is not the first time that I've had a guest talk about Lyme, but I will say since I started doing this show was the first time that I've heard about it. And I've been in this space now for like at least probably a decade, just working on stuff and being familiar with more about Lyme and tick-borne illness. And so that's a pretty long time to go without hearing about this as an offering to heal from. And I understand maybe it doesn't work for everybody, but the number of people that I'm finding that have had success with it, I think it's definitely a worthwhile venture to look into. And Dani, can you tell me, did this help with co-infections, or this just really targets the Lyme?
I believe in terms of it's like target the Lyme. However, I can tell you that if it's Lyme specifically. However, I can tell you, like, like some of the symptoms I was having, like the rib cage stabbing type of thing, seems to be a symptom of Bartonella. I can tell you, like, I couldn't walk upstairs without getting winded, and that, I mean, when I talk to people, I'm like, well, it could be the mold. However, when I did the Lyme N, like Babesia seems to be the lungs and the breathing
Yeah.
symptoms for that. So when I couldn't like walk up again, I went from doing CrossFit and running like 3 miles like nobody's business to not being able to go up my stairs and also getting winded just driving. It's just I couldn't breathe. You couldn't get enough oxygen. So like the mold didn't help. But when I did the Lyme N, I can tell you that those symptoms I need to get retested. I do need to get retested to make sure that it's like not there, but like it's like it never happened. It's in terms of what my body went through. So I think it doesn't talk about co-infections, but in my experience, it seems to have handled the co-infections as well, if what my understanding and what I experienced and what I read was accurate.
Yeah, awesome. And so then did you do other protocols in conjunction with the Lyme? Did you change your diet? Did you change your lifestyle? Did you change your laundry detergent? Did you change the soaps on that like is there anything else that you did in conjunction with the Lyme to heal?
I had already done that at an earlier stage of my life because after having my son, I had another health crisis, and that's how I got connected to this world and the doctors that I spoke to you about. Had another health crisis, and that's when I kind of I don't know. It's almost like it's like that thing in maybe the Wizard of Oz when the world becomes color, and it's like, oh my gosh, I am washing my hair with toxic substances. I am brushing my teeth with toxic substances. I'm drinking toxic substances. I'm eating toxic substances. Raisin Bran, Fruit Loops. This is not food. In terms of like a step over the line and the world becomes color, and it's like overwhelming at first. But so I had already done that in terms of my lifestyle. I had already tried to eat organic as much as possible. Um, like had referenced the Environmental Working Group. It's a great app to check what products you're using, so that you can just reduce that toxic load on your body as much as possible. So like my laundry detergents were always natural driven, and just try to do the best I could there. So I did have that going for me already, and my diet. Because of what I had gone through before was already pretty good. Like I'm like I can always do better. I can always do better.
Yeah,
But it was like it
working.
was at least I knew what I knew. I knew what I needed. I knew what I needed to do, and I ate pretty well. So I don't think I need anything drastic there because I'd already made the drastic moves the first my previous health crisis.
First go around with your body. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
this is
good.
round two.
Yeah, so you kind of laid down the groundwork. I often marvel at stuff like that too. It's like things happen for us, right? And so maybe that just helped your transition back to the healthy side more, having gone through that first round. Like maybe you would still be trying to fix yourself had you not gone through that first health crisis. So
Oh yeah, I'm super great. I try to live my life in terms of the perspective. I'm like, okay, like in terms of life happening for us, even things can be god awful, like life happening for us instead of like against us in terms of like I'm here to learn, and I'm still honestly trying to I'm still trying to go through that a bit. I'm a super grateful person just in general and happy. And I just love the little things and a little flower, a little shimmer outside in terms of just gratitude and just looking at those things. I think especially like when you're prepared to die, these things become more of a priority. However, I can tell you in terms of where I'm at right now is even 7 years later, and I'm also going through the mold. I thought I was healed, and then I started doing like the mold protocol, and I recognized that my brain was still pretty hijacked. I feel great, um, but I didn't realize I was still compromised. And one thing I just wanted to work into our conversation is like if you go on that healing journey, it's like dealing with the aftermath of everything and every ball that you dropped in relationships or whatever when you were so sick that you couldn't function, and financial strain. Like I'm trying to rebuild my life right now, and some days it is overwhelming. Like the time I've lost with my son,
You're doing good.
mm,
You're
like
doing
being the
good.
best mom I could be. It's like, doing the best I could with what I had. But when you have to sleep and when you have to take 2 to 3 hour naps, two to 3 hour naps during the day, just to get through, just to get through. And and you have no energy beyond, beyond survival. And just stuff that and just financial stuff. I'm so grateful that I had a little bit of a buffer because, people that have talked to me like, could you have worked? I'm like, no, there's no, like, I was able to accomplish some things. Um, thank good, thank, goodness. And um, I had like this wonderful Facebook group, and they don't, those, my God, those women don't realize, like, they're still women like you, like women business owners, like, and they all have different journeys, like this, and all different health challenges. Like, they don't know. I would talk about this. This is another thing with, when you're going through something like this, it's like maybe talk about it a little bit, but I never want to, if you actually gave people like the full on everything, it's just too much.
Yeah.
What you're going through is just too much, other than your close confidants, you would, it's just too much. I feel like it's just too much of a burden to put on. And you don't want to, in a lot of like, I'm strong, my complaining, I'm like, I'm going to find my way through. But I just want to say like that, those women, having that to go through, to go to, they were, in terms of the benefits of social media, like they were a support beyond, but they kept me sane in terms of, because that was a little bit that I could do, other than, doing the best to take care of my son and everything like that, in terms of, getting through the rough parts of it. And now I'm in a rebuild phase. So I'm trying to embrace that and not chastise myself, not be frustrated. I'm like, oh, but in terms of like that's the part of the journey I'm on right now, is making peace with all that.
Yeah. It's hard. And I don't have children, so like it's a little bit easier for me in a sense to just be like, okay, well, I was a hermit in that phase of my life. I felt like the worst friend and family member on the planet. Like,
Mm-hmm.
hardly even remember my family members' names, but like I had
Yeah.
people that would come home to visit the area and they'd be like, let's get together. And I'd be like, yeah. And then it would come time to go and I'd be like, no, because I couldn't even
Yep.
leave the couch and it was just horrible. And like, you feel like a really bad human. And so I think about people who have children. Like I would often look at like families. I'm like, how are these people doing this? I can't even cook for myself. I can't even do my wash. Like I have a hard time taking care of my property. Like I tried to sell my house. I just wanted the easiest life possible because it was all too much. It was all too much. And so I have a lot
Mm-hmm.
of friends that have this, that have children, and I know the guilt in a sense that they feel from it because they're not as an active parent as they'd like to be, and they're not able to be there all the time. And their children have to go through different phases of life with a parent who's a little bit removed. And but I think ultimately what I would pray is that your children understand. They get that you're not well and they're pretty resilient. And so hopefully, like, for him, he's just happy to have you back now in the capacity that you're in again. Like I, I know that nothing can really replace that time, right? But he knows that you love him. I'm sure of it. I'm so sure of it. And that's really what matters is like he knows that you care about him. He's not left wandering around feeling like his mommy doesn't love him. Like he knows that you love him very much. You're just in a very difficult space for a little while. And I don't know if that gives you any consolation, but like um, it's hard. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. I've gone through a lot of hard things, and getting better from this is the hardest thing that I've ever done. And I hope to God I never have to do it again. I hope that you're past that point too of like the super hard part. And now it's just a little bit more of the emotional and spiritual cleansing that needs to continue. And, just keep working with yourself like you're doing. Give yourself space and grace. That's one of my favorite things, space and grace, right? You just give yourself a little bit of time and understanding, and you did the best that you could, and that's all that we can do. We're just doing, Brene Brown asked that question, do you think everyone's doing the best that they can? And I ask this of people often, and they're like, no, because some people are only at like whatever percent, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, but they're still in that time, in that moment, doing the best that they can do, right? With what they have. They don't know any different. They're just doing the best that they can to survive, to make it through the day, to make the best choices that they think they can for themselves. And that's what you're doing. You're doing the best that you could. And you got to be okay with that. I know it's hard, like it's hard, but
No, absolutely. It's interesting. It's like that. It's like everything is the yin and yang in terms of like the drive, the stubbornness, the seeking to always do like better is great in how I found my way to healing. But also it's, the other side of it is could you have done it better? I'm like, so I'm 48 now. So I'm like, I'm okay in terms of
wow.
like the global, but just acutely and to let you know, like my son is the most amazing human being I've ever met. He's amazing. He's 17. He's loving and awesome. And I just, oh my God, he's just the best, best thing I've ever done. In terms of my life and it's I'm so grateful to him. And so he tells me, it's like, well, like, Mom, I'm doing pretty good. So like I think you did all right. I'm like, okay, thanks.
And also, I just want to point out, like, maybe he wouldn't have turned out like he did had you not gone through the experience with him, right? Like,
Yeah, there's always that. And I sometime during that time I read Viktor Frankl's A Man's Search for Meaning because I'm like, what I really wanted to get to, like, what do people hold on to when they have literally nothing? Like worse than nothing, like when for those of your listeners who don't know the book, Viktor Frankl was in the Holocaust, and just the stories you can imagine that you hear about in terms of, but like how, what did he hold on to going through that, and that's in trying to finding meaning and purpose. And it's one of the reasons why when it's like, hey, would you want to do this podcast and talk about it? I'm like, yes, absolutely. Like, what do you need? If, this can give anybody, what you do, give the people hope, a little bit of guidance, some new tools to try. And, this is what it's, I don't know, this is what I think the most important part of the human experience.
very much so. And just trying to put stars out there for them to hitch their hope to, right? Like,
Yeah.
it can be very lonely and dark in that space. And when you're not sure what's happening to your body, but you're convinced without doubt that you're dying, like, that's a really hard place to exist. And so, um, my goal too is to like shorten the time that people go through that. But then I counter that with like, had I not gone through my experience, I wouldn't be who I am. Right. And so each person has their own journey to walk. And while it might be painful for us to watch others from the outside, in hindsight, for that person experiencing it might be the most beautiful experience that they ever have in the end. Like, in the middle, it totally sucked. And like, I've asked that sometimes to people too. It's like, would you trade this experience? Would, what do you feel about that, Dani? Would you, if you didn't have to go through this, do you feel that your soul's evolution through this process was worthwhile to go through what you went through?
I can tell you with my first health crisis, 100% yes, I was there. I think in my heart of hearts, I'll know I'll get there. I'm grateful, but with the tick stuff, the like I'll know I'll get there, but I'm not 100% there yet. I'll just be honest with you. In terms of like my first health crisis, I'm like, yep, I got the people, the practitioners, and like and just through people talking to me, I've seen how that really just made everyone around me, saved some people around me. And of course, my knowing those practitioners is what's, saved me from the Lyme. So I think as I continue to rebuild and I do things like, the podcast, and I talk to more people that are like, hey, I'm scared to take this stuff, but maybe I'm on the fence. I'm like, well, I'll show you my experience. I think I think in terms of like my soul's, like my, you got to talk like soul's journey, like I will get there, but I'm not quite, I'm there. I'll get there because that's where I am like always, and I always get there, but it's like, but it's, I'm not fully there yet, but experiences like you and talking about it and helping have other people, like you talked about, get diagnosed faster, know about this and know how inaccurate all the, the information is out there. Like, oh, it's a bullseye rash. You get the bull. I'm like, no. No. And also, especially to help like kids going through this. As I was preparing to talk to you today, I was thinking about that question. And I was thinking about that question in particular of, the good that's come out of it. And I'm thinking, I'm really grateful. I've talked to a lot of adults go on the journey and just happen to be like through like Lyme, being that person that I get the call every once in a while, hey, can you talk to me? And then I end up talking to them through the experience. So that's rewarding. But I'm also thinking about kids because I think about the symptoms and everything. And if I had and it was put in a child's body, would anybody, like, you have limited capacity to reach out and advocate for yourself, and you also have, oh, you're a 10-year-old, you're, on a baseball team. Like, were you talking about your hands hurt? Were you talking about you can't get out of bed? Were you talking about you can't breathe? Stop complaining, in terms of, so I think as I thought about being on your podcast, I thought about that in particular. It's like, wow, if like what I went through can help, especially kids, advocate so their parents know that, like, no, something could be really wrong, even though the doctor is saying there's nothing wrong with your kid, they're perfectly healthy. That, I think, is how I'll get there. Yeah. So there, thank you for coming on my mind journey with me on that conversational question.
I appreciate it a lot because that is a topic I think about a lot. And I had the vocabulary to talk to doctors. I had the wherewithal of myself and my being to say something's wrong with me, something's not right. And they still didn't believe me. They just told me it was too much stress. And so then I think about children and I'm like, man, and they're the hardest hit population, not to be disheartening, but like kids are hit the hardest. Why? Because they're outside playing more often than we are. And they're much more in that environment where ticks hang out. And so I just like it breaks my heart to think about. And I think about the homeless population a lot too, because I just think many times they've got um, mental illness stigmas associated with them. And in reality, it's probably tick-borne illness. And like, man, that's just such a vulnerable population in a sense. And that breaks my heart a lot too. But I struggle with that thought with children because again, they can't really advocate for themselves. They can't really know the difference in a sense either. And they're so little, like they don't have as much perspective as we do, as maybe long of life going that we felt good to compare it to not feeling well and to know like, okay, something's drastically wrong. I don't care what these doctors are telling me. They're gonna find me dead on the sidewalk in a few days. Like something's very seriously wrong. Where kids like they don't know. And if the doctor tells them they're okay, they're gonna never know. And I wonder about that a lot and like how many people mature into adults then and have this as an underlying cause for a lot of their issues, right? Hip replacement, knee replacement, psychiatric issues, like
Depression.
ugh,
And it's just, and then it's like a double, I forgot I was in, as you can tell, I've been in a lot of doctor's offices, like imagine a lot of people that, but I remember one of them on the poster, it's like basically it's like you have I'm not gonna get it, I'm gonna get it wrong, but it's like you have the illness or the problem, and then and then you have to heal, and you have the medicine, and then it's like you have to heal twice. Like medicine's great, not saying no medicine, but in terms of like, if you have like, and I have, acquaintances of, with tick-borne illnesses and depression, and unfortunately, where that can go. But, you have this underlying condition that nobody can find. You're having these mental struggles, and then you get put on different medicines for that. But in terms of like not treating the just it's such a gift to be with a doctor that starts looking for the underlying illness and the underlying causes, not just treating the symptom, but finding that cause. And I try to tell people that, just like in terms of like the naturopathic doctors that I work with, and some people, they still look at them as like witch doctors. I'm like, no, they have more education, more, not less, more. Because a lot of these, they have their PAs, their MDs, but they just put more, not less, more.
Right. That's right. That's right. And that's really imperative. It's like finding a doctor that A, believes you and actually hears you and doesn't just brush you to the side telling you that it's your stressful lifestyle or you're over emotional female.
Yeah.
And who actually can get to the root cause, right? Like I look at a lot of the drugs that they push on people these days, and it's like, oh, you've got high blood pressure, take this. Oh, you've got high cholesterol, take that. Like, that's great. I mean, sure, maybe it accomplishes some things, but it's not getting to the root cause. And I think we've become a society that's like wanting instant gratification. Like, I want to be fixed from this immediately. And that's one thing I think Lyme and tick-borne illness taught me was patience and the fact that sometimes it's not a fast fix. Sometimes it's going to take some time and some effort. And it just helps me in other areas of my life to realize like that immediate gratification, that dopamine hit or whatever it is that we're getting from that fast fix isn't necessarily healthy. And it's not necessarily the way that we need to be. Granted, I wish I could wave a magic wand and make people better in an instant, but to just a band-aid it or to just placate with some type of antidepressant or whatever is really doing us no favors. It's not teaching, it's like that adage where you want to teach a man how to fix his hunger or whatever. It's like if you give a man a fish, he's going to be back the next day. If you teach the man how to fish, he's going to be able to take care of himself. And it's the same kind of thing. Like if you teach people a genuinely different relationship with self, that's much healthier. They're going to be able to take care of themselves over a longer period of time. Whereas if you're just giving them a pill to band-aid the symptoms, they're just going to keep coming back for more pills. And like, you're not actually helping them to change the state of being. And so I have a lot of respect for naturopaths. I mean, I'm an Ayurvedic practitioner myself. That's the oldest holistic medicine system in the world. I took it upon me to learn because I got a lot of people like you reaching out to me for help with Lyme and tick-borne illness. And I wanted to be able to guide them as succinctly as possible. And while Western medicine has its place, I was personally better served with herbal remedies and energetic healings and spiritual work versus
Mhm.
like, here's your antibiotic. And I mean, I was on antibiotics for 2.5 years. Would I do it again? I don't know, but I got to where I got to, and I'm grateful for that. But like it tore
It's
my
again,
body up.
yeah, it's both. I'm so grateful for both. And I hope that through podcasts like yours, in terms of we start building on the strengths of both. Like, am I on a gurney and my heart's going into like antibiotics? Yes, thank God, thank goodness. I broke my arm. Thank
Yep.
goodness. I had a
Yeah.
C-section. Like, thank goodness. Like, I wouldn't be here if not for both perspectives.
Yes.
What I would love to see is in terms of like, what we consider Western medicine, I would love for more, especially like nutrition and education, because I do think coming back to doing the best that they can, because I think people can, especially it's frustrating when dealing with a system that's kind of letting you down, but then like they're doing the best they can with what they have, and they're under constraints that they don't want to be under because of their broken health, because of the broken healthcare system in that regards. So is just, yeah, kind of like just keep seeking. Don't, just seek. If someone tells you, listen to your gut, keep seeking answers, and you might find it in, different places, like you mentioned. There's so many different healing modalities out there now and that's just absolutely wonderful. And people are like, oh, it's placebo. I'm like, I don't care.
Exactly.
Like, and
Better.
I'm like, I'm a big fan of what works. Don't really care why, you know?
Exactly. And that's what I feel like a lot of damage was done at the beginning of the 1900s when they released a report. I think it was Rockefeller had someone write a paper about the advantages of Western medicine and how terrible anything outside of that was. And basically overnight, all these other modalities that people were using for thousands of years had to close shop and were shut down, right? And it was just, let's put all of our hope in pills and surgeries, and that's gonna be how it goes. But Western medicine does again have its place and its purpose. And I agree with you. It's like we need to really work on integrating those more effectively, because one helps the other and they're even stronger together. But the fact that that's the only choice, and it's only been around for like 120 years versus some of these other things like have been around again for thousands of years. I don't know, personally, like I put my credence in something that's really stood the test of time. And half those medicines that we look to, outside of traditional Western medicine, weren't even written down for the first few thousand years. It was a verbal passage along kind of a thing. So like that even more stands the test of time in my mind. And they're proving now a lot of those medicines. And I just saw a thing that they were doing like frequency healing in a neonatal intensive care, like sound
Yeah.
vibrations. And I'm like, here's this guy going through with his gong next to these little babies. Like, great,
Yeah.
great. They practice Reiki, they practice a lot of different things
Hmm.
now in the hospital. And it's like, thank God, like this is what it should be, is that they're working together to give us the best results that we can possibly get as a person, with our own body. So yeah, I'm excited actually. I think we're at a really important turning point in history where those things are going to become much more part of the common path for people to heal. And it won't be hopefully witchcraft or voodoo or whatever people want to consider it as. And I talk to a fair amount of people, and I'm encouraged because many of them are familiar with these things, at least as a concept. Maybe they've not tried it, but they're like, oh yeah, I've heard of Reiki. Like, tell me more about that. What
Yeah.
is that? Or, oh yeah, I've heard of theta. What is that? Tell me, like different things that I know to do for people's bodies. But it's more of an energetic healing as opposed to a straight physical, take a pill and you're going to get better kind of a thing. So, and like, how are you doing now? Like, so you're touching on mold, and
Mhm.
I'm trying to be conscious of time here, but like,
Oh, yeah.
um, what did you do to deal with the mold problem?
So the regimen I'm in right now is I'm taking it's like a supplement, and it's a supplement that's like designed to help like bind to stuff that shouldn't be in you, and it's like a binder to get out of you. And I'm in that right now, and my whole family's going through it, and and we are just, it's like we're coming alive again. Like our brains are working faster, and it's like, oh wow. So that's super fun. Because again, we didn't realize that we were this compromised and we were just trudging through, but now it's like we can remember things. So that, and then I'll move on to some different like sprays and stuff to help get that mold out of the body. But so that's where I'm at with that. So I'm seeing the results of demoldifying myself for, I don't know what to call it. I'm 48. I'm too young to be moldy. So I'm getting rid of mold. So that's the journey I'm on right now. I'm becoming less moldy, Anne.
Yeah, good. And for my listeners, like, please do appreciate the power that mold can have over the body. It is an immunosuppressant. I don't know if I put quite as much focus on it prior to having this podcast, but at least half of my guests have talked about mold and its impact on their body and their healing process. So, like, it is something that you really need to be sure of. Like, is it in your house? Is it in your workspace? Is it in the gym? Like, where is it if it's affecting you? And take it seriously. Like, there's just something that is very important, because I can see a lot of people banging their head against the wall treating tick-borne illness and not really progressing, when lo and behold, it's actually mold. And they're not even aware that that's there. So make sure you have your doctor test you for mold. Heavy metals is another one. But those three kind of go hand in hand: heavy metals, mold, and tick-borne illness. And you want to just check off all the boxes to make sure that you've been tested for everything in those spectrums, because they can do a lot of damage to the body, and not far beyond just brain fog and fatigue. And I know some types, ochre toxin is usually from water damage that can cause kidney stones. It can cause a whole litany of issues. And you really just want to be certain of what you're dealing with so you can treat adequately and get back to a normal life as fast as possible. So Thank you for calling that out and, just sharing with us a little bit more about what you've done to help yourself heal and what you're doing and where you're at. And as a final question that I like, well, two things I want to just double check. I'm pretty sure I know the answer to the first one, but you're okay if people contact you to talk to you more about your healing journey, how you were, if they want to talk to you about Lyme, if they
Yeah.
want to talk to you about the mold stuff, and what would be the best way for people to contact you?
I'd say drop me an email. My email address is daniwhitestone@gmail.com. That's DaniWhitestone.com.
Awesome, thank you. And you can also go ahead and buy Dani's book if you're interested. It's a little bit of a different topic, like I said, but going back to the Brilliant Business Work Woman, Brilliant, the Brilliant Business Woman, your guide to entrepreneurial success. I know that you said that's available. I don't know if you have a website that people can go to. I know you said it's on Amazon.
Yep, it's on Amazon. If you search for that title or you search for Dani Whitestone, it'll pop right up.
Perfect. And so I want to just put that shout out there for you again, because I
Oh,
applaud your
thanks.
efforts on that. Like going through chronic illness, having a child, life, etc., and to still crank out a book on top of it is pretty phenomenal. So kudos to you on that. And then as my final question, I really just want to ask you, what is the best thing that's happened to you as a result of getting Lyme and tick-borne illness? And I know that's kind of a weird question sometimes. It's like, there's nothing good. What are you talking about? But there are some really bright spots that have come out of this for me, and I would hope that that's the case for everybody. So I don't know if there's one answer that jumps to mind or a couple answers, but there's no right or wrong there.
I'd say the best thing, the most rewarding thing that's come out of this is the most powerful thing is getting that call from people when they don't know what to do and they are miserable, and then them asking me about my experience and what has worked, and then having them being in contact with them out of their own will, just checking in, and me checking in on them as they go through it, and talking to folks that I get them on the phone and they're like, it's just like barely a whisper and you can hear the pain. And then months later, it's like, hey, Dani, what's going on? And it's just like that is, if I'm being, if you take a spiritual angle, being used to be a help there, it's just so rewarding. And I'm grateful to be able to have, from what I went through, bring some meaning and to give a little bit back to people on that being in those shoes that you and I both know in terms of what it's like and having someone there to help.
This is definitely one of the best parts. It's like, again, it's that whole question of like, would I have gone through this experience? I don't know, but it's like, since I had to go through the experience, at least I can be there as a sounding board or guidance or whatever it is for other people. And I'm sure that you've had people tell you, and I have had people tell me that I have saved their lives. And like, that's like a really humbling, overwhelming, like incredulous kind of a thing. Cause I'm just a person. Like, I'm just a person living my life. I went through something pretty terrible. And so I just want to share with others so that they're aware of it. But like the impact that you have, I'm not sure if you quite, it sounds like in a sense you're starting to get the magnitude of it, but like you're impressing upon people a whole different way to look at themselves. And that's incredibly valuable and important. And God chose you for a reason. As hard as it is to accept what has happened, like you're here standing strong for a reason. And people will find you, your words will find the right people, and you will save lives. You already have saved lives just by being you. And again, that's a really humbling thing. Like, I'm just a person. I don't know how I feel about that, but it's like, whoa, wow, well, okay, I guess it was worth it then. If I can save anybody else from that time or that experience, then yes, great. If I can get a mom back to health quicker so she can be with her kids again sooner, great. Like, it makes it worth it. And so not everybody decides to go that way, and that's okay too. Everybody's allowed to deal with their traumas in the way that they choose to. But I think what you're doing is hugely important, very vulnerable too. Like that's a big thing. Like, you're putting yourself out there, you're being vulnerable, you're being open, you're exposing yourself for what you have gone through. But you're such a good teacher to let people know about different things they can do, but most importantly, that it's possible, right?
Yep. It's so true. I credit all my doctors, but if I can be a little part of the process, it's just so grateful. And I give my credit to my dog. In terms of my
Right?
dogs unlocked it all.
Right? Little did they know, but God sends us exactly who we
God
need
sent my
and
dog.
what we need. And God was like, no, Danny, you need that dog. I know you feel like
I
you can't take care of that dog, but you need that dog. And here comes your answer. Here comes your miracle. And, I appreciate you giving credit to the doctors, but just again, give yourself credit too, because you really had to do the hard work. You had to live it and you had to practice it and do it. And it's not an easy walk to do. It's not an easy journey. And it is one that causes a lot of emotional turmoil within self. And I just again applaud you for your efforts and for continuing to step forward, even in very dark, hard, scary times, and putting yourself as a priority and making yourself that priority to get yourself better again. That's also another huge thing as women. We really need to do a little bit, maybe of a better job is making ourselves the priority, because we do matter and we deserve a good quality of life. And again, that's huge. What you're showing as an example for others is very, very meaningful. So thank you for that, Dani.
Thank you, Em. Thank you so
Yeah,
much. I'll probably listen to this part a couple of times. Thank you so much.
absolutely.
Thank you for doing everything that you do, and for everyone who listens to your podcast. I just wish you this love and healing, and everyone who hears this.
Yes, all around. Namaste. Thank you, Dani.